Russ is back. Russ is back. Russ is back. Russ is back. Welcome back. Welcome back, NBA. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back, NBA. Russ is back. Russ is back. Welcome back, NBA. Russ is back. Russ is back. Welcome back, NBA. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Smarmy Grin podcast. The Smarmy Grin podcast. Smarmy Grin podcast. Welcome back. Welcome back. Russ and the Smarmy Grin podcast are back. Sup? Good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome back to the Smarmy Grin podcast, episode number 12. This your boy, JL. What's up, doggy dog? Doggy dog dog. It's September 29th, 2017, Friday night. Very nice out. Except in our neighboring county of Brevard County. Tornado warning over there. Thanks, Africa. Another wave. Actually, I shouldn't be thinking Africa. This one's coming out of the Gulf. Thanks, Gulf of Mexico. Anyways, on tonight's Smarmy Grin podcast, I will be talking about Russell Westbrook signing a 5-year contract with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Good for you, Russ. Good for you. I applaud your move. The Thunder fans deserve it. I want to touch on that. And also, I want to talk about, before we start talking about Russ, I'm just going to give you a little bit of my background as far as my background loving the NBA and loving basketball as a whole, playing it, growing up, playing basketball, watching all these players over the years and meeting a few players over the years. But I absolutely love watching the game, still do. I was disappointed last year on what happened with Durant signing with the Warriors. I thought that was awful for the league. I really did. I still feel the same way. But I have to say, the league got me back this year with all these signings that went off in the offseason. So I'm extremely excited for this up-and-coming season, 2017-2018 season. So I'm going to talk about that, my background with basketball, Russell Westbrook, and on the bitching, the moaning segment, I want to speak about bad Florida drivers. Thanks, Florida. Yes, awful Florida drivers. I'm going to tell you a little story that I heard from my coworker this morning. An awful experience that he had. And I'm just going to go into a little bit of detail of what happened to him, his experience this morning as he was getting ready for a trip. And this is a perfect example, people, of how bad Florida drivers are down here. So anyways, let's get this show and let's get this party started with Russell Westbrook. No, I'm just kidding. No, so yeah, I'm going to talk about a little bit about Russell. I'm going to keep this podcast short tonight. I want to say, like, every time I say I'm going to keep it short, I never keep it short. It usually ends up being like an hour. I'm usually shooting for 30 minutes with a short podcast, but I just keep going, and I'm enjoying just talking to you guys. So I end up, like, I don't know, finishing this off at the 45 mark or 50 mark, so it's never like 30 minutes. I'm going to try to keep it under an hour. But anyways, I just want to tell you guys, I was extremely, extremely disappointed with the NBA last season. It was the first time in a long time that I didn't watch any basketball whatsoever. I barely watched the playoffs, and that's the first time in a long time that I've done that. I'm such a huge basketball fanatic that it was frustrating. And it was frustrating because, first of all, I know that a lot of people were upset about Kevin Durant going to signing with the Warriors in the offseason last year. I was one of them. I still feel the same way about that. And the reason why I feel that way is because of this. The dude left a really good team, a top 3 Western Conference team, to the best team in the West, meaning the Warriors. So he left and signed with the best team. Now, if this scenario that I'm going to tell you would have unfolded, I would have understood why the guy signed with the Warriors. Let's say if last year or the year before that, before he signed with the Warriors, let's say if the Oklahoma City Thunder would have played the Warriors in the first round, and if they would have got swept, and then here comes the offseason, Durant signs with the Warriors. Okay, I see that. That doesn't bother me, because I'm like, you know what? They got swept. It's obvious that they don't have any help. And the guy wants to win a championship. And he's been in the league, for, I would say, almost a decade now. So I'm like, okay, I get that. They got swept. The Thunder got swept by the Warriors in the first round. So I get it. I understand. I wouldn't be upset at all. I would understand his move. But that's not what happened. What happened was this, and all you guys already know this. So the Warriors and the Thunder, they face off in the Western Conference Finals. They're up 3-1. The Thunder are up 3-1 on the Warriors. The Warriors come back. They beat them in 7 games. They beat the Thunder in 7 games. Durant kind of disappears for the last 3 to 4 games. I want to say the last 3 games or 2 games he disappeared. Critical games. All those games are critical. But he disappears. But they were up 3-1. So it wasn't a matter if the Thunder were a good team or not. They were a good team. And you can say they were a great team because you have the top 2 players in the league playing in the same team with solid players around them. They're up 3-1 on the Warriors. The top team in the Western Conference, the Warriors, for the last couple of years. So they're up 3-1. All they needed to do was win one more, and bam, they would have gone to the finals and played the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I really do think that if that would have unfolded, the Warriors would have won that championship. The Thunder would have won that championship, and they definitely would have beaten the Cavaliers if that would have unfolded, if the Thunder would have held that 3-1 lead and gone into the next game and won that series 4-1. But that's not what happened. So the Warriors come back and they beat the Thunder. And in the offseason, Durant leaves and signs with the Warriors. So Durant leaves the Thunder, goes to the Warriors. And I'm thinking, man, I have an issue with that. Because you're basically joining the team that you were up on 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals. You're basically joining the best team in the league that doesn't need any help. And you're basically saying, hey, I can't win here, so I'm going to join the crowd over here. So it's that classic move. You can't beat them, join them. So he left. I'm not blaming the Warriors for giving him the contract. He's a great player. Anybody would have given him the contract. But for him just to leave and leave that way that he left, basically left the Thunder hanging, was a bad move on him, on his part. And honestly, I thought there was a little bit a feathery move, a chicken move, if you want to call it that. Because you have a great player that you're playing next to, and that's Russell Westbrook. So I just thought that it was a bad move for the NBA. I thought that it weakened the Western Conference. And it did, and I was right, and I still feel that way. So, but anyways, it's old news, so I don't want to keep talking about that. So yes, because of that, last year, the NBA season last year was meaningless because you already knew what teams were going to go to the finals. You already knew that the Cavaliers were going to go to the finals, and you already knew that the Warriors were definitely going to go to the finals with Kevin Durant, because what they had basically was a new era dream team. That's what they have with Kevin Durant on that team. So obviously they're going to go to the finals. I didn't really care for the regular season. I watched maybe a couple of games. I probably watched a couple of games during the playoffs, and that might have been the Washington series against Boston, which I thought was a really good series. It wasn't great, but it was good. It was entertaining, so I ended up watching that. But that was it. I didn't really care for the rest of the playoffs. And I watched the first game San Antonio played against the Warriors, and where they blew him out of the building. And if it wasn't for that Kawhi Leonard injury, I think it was right after that first game or second game, I think that San Antonio would have come back and beaten the Warriors. But so anyways, it didn't happen. So you already knew. It was already scripted from the very first game, and you already knew what two teams are going. So it's bad for the league. It's bad for the league when you have that predictability in the season and also the playoffs and the championship game. So that was a major turnoff for me. I was like, you know what? I felt like the people that are criticizing all these NFL players for kneeling, that's how I felt like. I will never watch another NBA game. Blah, 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 blah. Never. I will never watch that because there is no competition. That was me. I was being hypocritical. I was being an idiot loser saying that. And lo and behold, here comes this offseason. Paul George signs with the Thunder. And then 2 months later, Carmelo signs with the Thunder. And then you have the Kyrie Irving trade for Isaiah Thomas and Crowder. The Cavaliers Boston trade. And that got me excited too about the East, because now I'm looking at, man, Boston just picked up the guy from Utah, and now they're going to pick up Kyrie Irving, so they're getting better. Washington's still going to be fun to watch. That's a solid team. Miami's going to get better. Toronto is going to be a really good team. So the East is going to be fun to watch this season. And I think the East this season is going to be very competitive. I really do. You're still going to have your stinker teams like the Magic, my Magic. Don't even get me started there. But anyways, I believe that this coming season, is going to be the most competitive season that we've had in a long, long time. And I'm not just talking about playoffs. I'm talking about regular season. In conference games, there's going to be a lot of good games. I mean, I still think that the Cavaliers are going to go to the finals, but I don't think it's going to be a shoo-in like a lot of people are saying. I think it's going to be tougher this year for them without Kyrie, and it's not going to be easy. I think this is going to be their hardest test. Is going to be this year because the East will be better. And all that Boston needs to do is just make one more move, or Washington make one more move. And I seriously think that if one of these teams in the East, besides the Cavaliers, if they make a really good, solid move, I think the Cavaliers are in trouble. I think that they're in trouble and they're vulnerable in losing maybe a second round play, in the second round. So I'm not too 100% sure about the Cavaliers making it all the way to the finals. So, but the West though, the West to me is intriguing because you have the Thunder right now, which has got 2 star players, and also you have Chris Paul going to Houston, so that team's going to be better. LA, who knows what's the Clippers, who knows what's going to happen with that team. They still might be in it. They might make the playoffs, maybe not. I kind of doubt it. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. And then the Lakers are going to be fun to watch too with Lonzo Ball. Like it or not, like his dad or not, but the kid can play. He's a really good player, a great passer. So I'm looking forward to watching that team. I watched that Lakers team with Lonzo Ball in the summer league, and I loved watching them play. The kid can play, so he's a talented player. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at Portland. Portland's going to be better. Utah is going to be better. They got a good young team. So the West is intriguing. And out of all this, of course you know that the Warriors are going to be great. But of all this, San Antonio gets lost in the shuffle. So nobody knows what San Antonio is going to do. And I think that San Antonio is that sleeper team. I think San Antonio makes one more move, they can go to the finals. I mean, the way that they had the Warriors that first game in the Western Conference Finals, I know a lot of Warriors fans were like, the guy that's coaching that team is Pops. And Pops is a great coach. And if anybody can beat the Warriors, that's Pops. So that's how I felt. So to me, San Antonio is in it. To me, San Antonio is a top 3 team in the Western Conference, top 5 in the whole league. Also, Dallas. Dallas is going to be intriguing. I don't know how much longer Dirk Nowitzki has in his career. I'm really hoping that this year I can get some tickets to go watch Dirk when the Mavericks come to Orlando, because I want to see him before he retires. And personally, I think Dirk is one of the top 5 greatest power forwards to ever played the game. The guy is amazing. I don't think he gets enough credit that he should. What he did in 2011, that's like once in a lifetime performance, and you'll never see another performance like that. And that dude tore up the playoffs. He tore up the finals. And that performance, I'm not a Mavericks fan. I do like Dirk, but his performance that year was just spectacular. I loved every single minute of it. And I will talk about that in some other podcasts. But I absolutely love Dirk. So I'm excited about next year. I'm excited about the game. I'm excited about the quality of the game. And that's the thing that I was worried about last year. I was worried about the quality of the game because Durant had gone to the Warriors. And I was worried about that balance of power. I mean, you basically gave more offensive power to the Warriors by that move, and really who's gonna contend with a basically dream team of sorts, So I was concerned about the quality. It really turned me off. That move really turned me off to the NBA last season, but they got me hooked this season by all the moves that all these teams made and players made. So one thing that I do want to point out that I've heard a lot of people talking about is they're already bashing and complaining about this signing by Carmelo and Paul George going to the Thunder. They're saying, well, it's not enough. They're not going to be able to go to the finals. They're not even going to compete against the Warriors. I'm like, what? What the hell are you people? What the heck are you guys saying? Are you completely insane to say that they're not going to compete against the Warriors? Is completely ridiculous. I mean, if you want to look at that lineup, as far as like the starting 5, you're not going to get any better than the starting 5 they're going to have. So on that end, they're solid. Now, their bench is a little bit suspect because they have a lot of young players with not a lot of talent. I mean, the only guy that has a lot of talent there is Nick Collison, who's been with Oklahoma for a long time. They have Kyle Singler, he's an okay player. And also they have Felton, who used to play for the Knicks, Raymond Felton. I mean, he'll give you some good minutes and he'll give you some points. The rest of the guys on the team, as far as the bench guys, I really don't know much about them. But look at that starting five, though. You got Russell Westbrook at the point. You got Steven Adams at the center spot, which I really like. I really like Steven Adams' game. I wish that he would develop his post game a little bit more, but the guy is athletic enough that he plays really well. He plays really well with Russell. And now at the small forward at the 3, you got Paul George. Andre Roberson, you got another small forward there, and then you got Carmelo Anthony, which Carmelo can play the 4 if you wanted to. Paul George can play the 4 if he wants to. And Andre Roberson, he's basically a 3-2 guy. And Andre Roberson is actually one of the best defensive players in the league. I absolutely love watching that guy play defense. He's a great defender. The downside on Andre Roberson is that the guy can't. I mean, the dude can't score, man. Come on, let's just say he can't score, but he's a great defensive player. And having him on the floor next to Melo, he's going to erase a lot of defensive mistakes that Carmelo will make. But I mean, let's say it. Melo is not the greatest defensive player. He's a great offensive player. But Roberson there playing defense and Paul George there on the same court playing defense. These two guys are long. So, I mean, I'm excited just to see how they're going to play together. And defensively, I'm excited to see what they're going to do. So, I mean, don't discount or don't count out the Thunder. I think the Thunder are going to be in there. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up being in the Western Conference Finals. But I'm so excited. I just, the last couple of days, I've just been like, man, I'm not even a Thunder fan. But I know how it feels like being a fan of a small market team because you don't get players like this. You really don't. You don't get players like this, especially small market teams. So you got to give it up to the Thunder organization for helping out Russ and Steven Adams and Roberson for getting Paul George and Carmelo. Regardless of what happens next year, I think they did a great job for this year. And I'm hoping that Paul George will stay there long term, and I'm hoping Melo will stay there for 2-3 years with Oklahoma. And hopefully that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping they get a championship. So I'm pulling for you, Oklahoma. And, forget what Chris Rock said about, oh, man, well, you can't get sushi at 3 in the morning in Oklahoma. Hey, man, nobody wants sushi, dude. Where are you living, bro? Under a rock? Not everybody likes sushi, We like steaks, burgers, milkshakes. I don't know. When was the last time on a Friday night that you had when you were out drinking after a night of partying all night? What places do you usually hit? It's usually a pizza joint or a burger joint or a taco joint. And in between all those, it might be like the Waffle House or IHOP. I've never gone out drinking and then afterwards gone to a sushi bar. What, are you freaking kidding me, man? I love sushi, but sushi's usually for early in the evening, not like late at night. Get the hell out of here with that crap, Chris Rock. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the Thunder fans. And the reason why I'm excited, it's because I'm a basketball fan first. I'm a fan of talent, and I think Russell Westbrook is one of the most talented guys in the league for his size. To average triple-double last year was amazing. And, he gets criticized. Last year he was getting criticized by a lot of fans. And they're like, oh, man, well, his team was statting up his stats. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I'm like, okay, let's say if they were doing that. If he was padding his stats. Okay. He still has to go out there and get the rebound. He still has to get involved in the offense. He still has to make the perfect pass or get people involved. I mean, he's out there on the court busting his butt, and we're here on the couch criticizing them. Get a life, people. A lot of you guys are just a bunch of losers and whiners, man. God, man, you people just frustrate me. But anyways, regardless, the dude is a great player. I've been a fan of basketball, a fan of the NBA, since I was 11 years old. This was like back in '87. And the guy that got me hooked on basketball, watching old videos of him, was Dr. J. Dr. J was my man. That dude was my favorite player. He is and will always be my favorite player. And it was him and Dominique Wilkins back in those days that I really loved. I really enjoyed watching Magic. I really enjoyed watching Bird. I really enjoyed watching Kareem. And I enjoyed watching Jordan and the Pistons, Isaiah and Rodman and Karl Malone and all those guys, Chris Mullins and Run TMC. I loved watching those guys play basketball, but the guy that got me into the game, that made me love the game, was Dr. J. I just love how he handled himself on the court and off the court. And the guy that got me excited more than any other player besides Dr. J was Dominique. I mean, before we got a team here in Central Florida, before we got an NBA team, the closest team that we had to our state was the Hawks. So the Hawks became my favorite team for a little while there. And I absolutely loved watching Dominique play, and I loved watching the Hawks play. And I used to get mad when Jordan and Bird used to beat up on the Hawks all the time because I was such a huge Dominique fan and Hawks fan back in those days. That was way before we had the Magic here in Orlando, but I was such a Hawks fan that I would watch and follow all those games on TBS back in the day. And it was players like that, like Dominique, that made the game exciting to watch. It was those kind of players that made me fall in love with the game. A lot of these guys, a lot of great players, offensive players like Dominique, a lot of those guys didn't win a championship, guys like Barkley or Malone. But to me, it doesn't diminish their careers because those guys were great players regardless if they won or not. But if you look at what happened last year, this is the point that I was making to a friend of mine last year, when this whole thing with Durant went down. Durant went down. I was like, listen, what Durant did, his move to the Warriors, what that move made on those guys that didn't win a championship was, it solidified their careers. It solidified the fact that those dudes like Malone, Barkley, Stockton, all those great players, Dominique, that didn't win a championship, it solidified their careers in the fact that they busted their ass year in and year out, even being ridiculed to this day for not having a championship or not winning a championship. You know, guys like that, guys like Chris Webber that never won one. But to me, it solidifies their career even more by the move that Durant made, because it is hard. And those guys stuck around with the same teams, and they never joined their peers. They never joined, like you never saw Barkley playing with Dominique, or Dominique with Barkley, or Barkley with Jordan, or guys like that just joining together. So to me, it solidifies their greatness, what Durant did, that move that he made last year. So for me, that move put things into perspective as far as like these all-time great players' careers. So that's where I'm coming from with that. As far as like exciting players, the players that I grew up with, all those guys that didn't win a championship, like Shawn Kemp, Shawn Kemp brought so much entertainment into my life as far as like watching basketball. That dude was awesome. And the first time that I saw that guy was on a replay on Friday night. TBS used to air basketball games on Friday nights, and Ernie Johnson used to have the dunk of the night. And if you're an old school basketball player, you know what I'm gonna talk about. The Hawks and the Sonics had basically the same kind of looking uniform. A little bit of different colors, shading, whatever you want to call it, but it was basically the same design. And I was watching the dunk of the night one night, and I'm a kid, and I used to love the dunk of the night. So I see this guy, he's playing against New York, and I'm thinking, by looking at, because I really couldn't see who the team was that the Knicks were playing, but I'm thinking, wow, that's the Hawks. That's the Hawks playing. I didn't know the Hawks were playing the Knicks. So I'm looking at I'm looking at the replay, and I see this guy go up with a double pump, with the first pump faking Kenny Skywalker, and the second one he bam slams it, And I was just, oh my god, I was like, that's Dominique, that's my boy Dominique, with the double pump, because Dominique used to do it. I was like, holy crap, but I never saw that extension by Dominique, and I was like, oh shoot, man, that's sick, and they just kept playing that dunk over and over, and come to find out, that was a young rookie, Sean Kemp, that did that dunk, and I was like, oh shoot, never heard of this kid, and after that dunk, man, everybody knew about Sean Kemp. And then from then on until he went to Cleveland, he was one of my favorite players, exciting players, just a great talent on the court. The dude was just awesome, mobile. He could fly, he could dunk, he could shoot the ball. He was such a great player, and you don't even understand how much fun it was just to watch him play, because this dude was attacking the rim all the time. He was so much fun to watch. And those are the guys like that, and Dominique. I think those guys are missing from the NBA. You really don't see guys like that can attack the rim that much. And the only guy that attacks the rim with such ferocity, like Dominique and Sean Kemp did back in those days, the only guy that has been doing it for the last 7 years since he's been in the league is Russell Westbrook. And that's why I'm such a huge fan of Russell Westbrook. I'm such a huge fan of his because he's such an athletic, amazingly athletic guy or player or dunker. And the last time that I've seen anything go after the rim like that was Sean Kemp and Dominique. And I just love watching them play because he's so much fun. And you see him get excited. And I love guys that get excited about the game because that tells you that they love the game and they have passion for the game. It's not just about money. And that's why I love Russell, because with him, it's all about passion. And the money is just the side part. So, man, I absolutely love that. And I absolutely love what he did signing that 5-year contract. So, Oklahoma, regardless, even after the 5 years, if Russell leaves, if he goes on to another team, I think you guys shouldn't be mad at him. I wouldn't be mad at him because he did his job. He was there for you guys. He gave you his prime, and he stayed true and loyal to your city. And the guy that everybody thought was going to do that was going to be Durant. Everybody thought that Russell was going to be the one that was going to take off. And it was the other way around. So, and I was just reading an article today, like a month after Paul George signed with, this speaks volumes about Russell, but a month after Paul George signed with the Thunder, he had a celebrity fishing tournament out in LA. And basically everybody that works in the front office for Oklahoma, they were there. Only 2 players showed up to that, and one of them was Russell Westbrook. And that's just, I mean, honestly, that's a small gesture, but that'll go a long way. And that says a lot about Russell and his commitment to his teammates and his city and his team. So I absolutely love what Russell did. It really speaks volumes about how he feels for the city of Oklahoma. Because if he signs a 5-year contract and you're one of the best players in the league left the year before, and he signs a 5-year contract, that's the gesture. That's the gesture that he's giving the Thunder fans. He's telling you guys, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here for the long run, for the long haul, and you got me. And man, that is awesome. I hope that he wins a title, but regardless, man, this guy, he can't say more than just great things about Russ. So it's a great gesture, and I think it's great for Oklahoma. It's great for a small market like the Thunder. So I'm absolutely loving that, and I'm so excited about next season. So excited. So I can't say more. I mean, it's as a basketball fan, it doesn't get any better than that, and what Russell has done. So I'm extremely excited about next season, and looking forward to it. I can't wait. Oh man, so excited. Anyways, that's my little 2 cents, my cheap 2 cents. And let's move on to the vent. The moaning, the bitching, the vent. So this morning, I'm at work, and one of my coworkers, he had to take the day off. He's got family in St. Thomas that was affected by Hurricane Irma. So he basically took the day off today to go with his brother. His brother has a truck, so they were going to go, the two of them were going to go and deliver, they were going to go down to South Florida and ship out 4 generators for their family, because they don't have any electricity or anything like that. So he was planning on leaving early in the morning, like I want to say around 5, so you can get there like around I want to say like 10 o'clock, maybe latest 11. So they were getting ready to do that. He was telling us, he sent us a text and pictures of what happened. So his brother had parked his truck in front of the house, right next to the street, but on the grassy knoll, right on the grassy side of the house, basically on the front lawn side of the house. Right, I mean, the truck was parked right next to the driveway on the lawn. That's where he parked his car for the night, so they could just take off in the morning. Luckily, they didn't pack the generators in the back of the truck. They had them in the garage. So they come out this morning and they heard this loud crash. This had to be like around 5:30 in the morning or whatever. This is the story that he's telling us. He sent us pictures, so there's no reason to not believe him. So apparently this lady, I don't know how this happens in the neighborhood, but apparently this lady was not paying attention. We all assume, because he didn't tell us, that she was either asleep at the wheel, or she was either texting and not paying attention. And in both instances, she was probably hauling ass on this residential area, speeding through the neighborhood. I'm not shocked and I'm not surprised, because this happens in my neighborhood all the time. So by the picture that he showed us, the truck was sitting on top of the lawn. This lady did not pay attention, smacked the crap out of the back of the truck, the driver's rear side of the truck. The truck spun onto the driveway. The left rear wheel was mangled. The left rear portion of the truck bed was mangled. The differential, after it was hit, the rear axle, had like a V shape, and that V point was pointing towards the engine. The truck was completely mangled. They called the police. The lady's brother gets there, and he's trying to get a hold of the situation, because, you know, they both started bitching at my friend. I'm like, if I would have been there, I was like, listen, your stupid sister just hit a parked car, and she was probably hauling ass by the look of the impact. So the police officer gets there. He looks at both cars, looks at my friend's car, looks at this lady's car, and he just shakes his head at the lady. He doesn't even say anything. He just gives my friend the lady's information. This is her insurance company, and this is paperwork saying that it's her fault. And you're going to have to, talk to their insurance company and all that. And the cop turns around and looks at the lady with this really, ticked off look. And he nods his head as to say, "You effing moron." So, this situation, I am not surprised or shocked by, because the same thing happened in front of my house. I saw this on a weekend afternoon. This is right after I mowed the lawn. I was sitting in my front porch, drinking a beer, which I like to do after I mow the lawn. I saw this lady hauling butt on one of these streets here. There's a stop sign. She didn't even stop. She was going southbound on this lane. The other guy was going eastbound, but he was going to make that turn into that street that she was at, that she was coming down on. The lady did not stop at the stop sign. She basically blew the stop sign. At the same time as she blows the stop sign, the dude is making that left turn in that same street. Bam! The dude gets T-boned by this idiot lady that wasn't paying attention. The dude had his family in his truck. His little girl was shaking and crying, felt so bad. So the cops were called, ambulance were called, and guess who got there first? The ice cream truck. I kid you not, the ice cream truck got there first. You know these ice cream trucks that go around neighborhoods selling ice cream to kids? That's who got there first. It took like the cops and the ambulance to get there. Like a good 10-15 minutes, which is completely ridiculous. But more ridiculous than that was this dumb person, this lady, that did not stop at that stop sign. And I see this all the time here in Central Florida. I see it all the time. And every time you say to yourself, wow, I think I've seen it all. No, you haven't. Because from the pictures that I saw this morning with my friend's brother's truck that was parked on the grass next to the driveway with nobody in it, and here comes a lady barreling down the road and bam, hits the truck, totals the truck. And it's a good thing that nobody was in it. It was a good thing that kids weren't around. It's a good thing that nobody was out walking their pets around the truck. Because honestly, if there were kids there or adults walking their pets, they would have been dead. But this lady, how can you not pay attention, man? This is the problem that I see with people all the time, especially here in Florida. A lot of people are always on their cell phones, texting, not paying attention, talking, not paying attention. I don't know why. Is it that important? Seriously? Another thing that I've noticed is that everybody gets up so early in the morning. And if you look around you in the morning when you're driving to work, everybody looks like a zombie because they didn't get enough rest the night before. I'm assuming it's because of stress. And there's a lot of people that get up early in the morning to go to work. When my friend's truck got hit, it was around 5:30 in the morning. So I'm assuming A, this lady fell asleep at the wheel. B, this lady was texting and hit the truck, or she was not paying attention. Either way, she was hauling ass in a residential area, which you should not be doing, period. But I see this all the time here in Central Florida. I see it all the time. And when you think that you have seen it all, you haven't. It's crazy. I mean, if you see the pictures, this truck was absolutely mangled. Mangled. That to me would have been an omen telling me not to go to South Florida and deliver these generators. But they did it anyways. They rented another truck and went down there. And good for them for helping out their family down in St. Thomas. That's the right thing to do. And that's the reason why they were going down to South Florida, was to drop off the generators so they can send them down to St. Thomas. But seriously, people, pay attention, man. Get off your phones. Honestly, get off your phone. don't be on your phone while you're driving. It's worse than drunk driving. Just get off your phone. When you get to your destination, text or call the person that you were texting or you want to text or whatever the case might be. But anyways, just get off your phone when you're driving and pay attention. Just pay attention. Is it that hard to do? I truly believe that every state should test people on their driving skills every 2 years. Because I see a lot of idiots here in Central Florida that don't know how to drive, and it just boggles my mind on how they got that driver's license in the first place. And I hope and wish that the state of Florida would do that. Every 2 years you get tested, regardless of what age you are. Every 2 years you get tested on your license just to make sure that you know how to drive. God! Come on, people. Learn how to drive. Anyways, that's the end of this episode number 12 on the Smarmy Grin podcast. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. And I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. I will be having a great night tonight. And I hope you guys have a great night too. So I'll be seeing y'all in episode 13 on the Smarmy Grin podcast. Have yourself a great weekend and a great night. See ya!